everybody. This is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for our devotional. We are in Acts chapter 20. I'm going to be reading verses 32 through 35. Here's what the text says. It says, "And now I commend you to God and to the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and to give you the inheritance among all those who are sanctified. I coveted no one's silver or gold or apparel. You yourselves know that these hands minister to my necessities and to those who are with me. And in all things, I have shown you that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he himself said, 'It is more blessed to give than to receive.'" Now, fellas, I got to say this to you. I think this text is remarkable because it reflects profound leadership maturity and spiritual maturity all at the same time. And what Paul is communicating in this text is a lesson I think only learned when we have successfully transferred what God has taught us to other people. It is a lesson beyond classroom learning and textbook education because it requires us to actually live out what we have proclaimed to others. And yet, in the statement, we find these little micro lessons about leading, right? Like leading with integrity or working hard or taking responsibility and contributing to the lives of others as well. But all this is fueled by just one thing. It's just one single thing. And this one thing is not another leadership principle or tactic or strategy. It's not something out of reach for young leaders or even young believers. And get this, it's not something you can do, but something that was done for you. And it is something that sustains our leadership and spiritual life all at the same time. It's this one thing. It's grace. You know, the grace that Paul talks about here restores and sustains and directs and defines all men. It's something extended to us by God when we did not deserve it. It is something that guides the character of a man day by day by day. It's the plumb line for our identity when we are shaken to the core, and it is the power by which we take another step when we fall into sin again, right? It's the power that leads us when we're uncertain of the future. And when a man knows God's grace, he knows the richest inheritance in this life. You know, a man who knows God's grace is the most capable leader. Did you know that? And the reason that this is that a man who knows God's grace knows this. He knows he is not the leader. He is the follower, and God is the leader. And godly leaders learn this and point others to the same grace that they have received. You see, godly leaders understand that leadership principles and strategies and tactics only puff a man up. They elevate the self and therefore have limited effectiveness with very, very short-term gains that will never last. But the man who knows God's grace and models it and leads others to an inheritance like that will empower them for a lifetime. It's an inheritance that will last far beyond them. And that's great leadership, fellas. Consider this question today. How can you extend God's grace to every person you encounter? Literally every person you encounter. I would challenge you to consider this question in every encounter you have today. And I bet if you started extending a little grace to the people around you, you might discover what Paul was experiencing here in this text. That it wasn't about him. It was about something done for him that others needed to know. That one word, grace. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. Extend grace. And I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.